Welcome to the SLT Podcast. Another episode. By the way, if you are not liking, sharing, commenting, and particularly subscribing, and I have to hold my hands up because I was pulled up by a teacher friend of mine. They was like, "Oh, you're not sharing this on LinkedIn. You're not." I will be sharing every episode moving forward on LinkedIn, and we are also sharing some of our clips on our LinkedIn page, the SLT Podcast. So I will make sure I will do a better job of that. So make sure you are following us on all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. But the most important one is the YouTube subscription, guys. Please stop watching this and telling us you're watching this and you're not subscribing. Yeah, our aim, we need to hit 1,000 subscribers. I think we're over 300 at the moment. We need 1,000 subscribers. So please make sure you are subscribing. It is me, Ziggy Moore, and my co-host, Miss Rena Johnson. Now, normally, there's some slight enmity between me and Miss Johnson. Kind of, we like that. It's been there for years. That's like tension. However, now you're gonna see us really go head to head on this topic. And normally we do questions, but there was this kind of one question that came in, and it caused, in our kind of WhatsApp back and forth it caused so much
ruckus.
Bring the mic in slightly closer to you, please.
Sorry, sir.
We said, you know what, let's just focus on this question. So the question reads, thank you very much. Remember, if you do have any questions, you can DM us on our Instagram or pop us an email. Also, I just want to say this, I'm speaking to the camera. If you want to come on as a guest, we're not prejudiced. There are some people we reach out to, but there are also people who just pop us a DM and say, so on and so forth, and we build up relationships with them. And they've come on. We've got a few coming on in the upcoming. Yeah. We've had a few in the past. So we're not gatekeepers, by the way, guys. I repeat this. We are not gatekeepers. We want to have as many conversations around education, teaching, all different aspects as possible. So if you're interested in coming on, please just pop us a DM, pop us an email. Yeah, we are not gatekeepers. I'll repeat that. So, this is a controversial topic. I'm a teacher and I use AI to plan my lessons. Some of my other people in my department think it's cheating and they look down on me. Is using AI in education cheating?
Yes.
No.
We'll see you on the next episode.
And that ends this episode of the SLT Podcast. All right. So, teaching. So you've got a teacher who plans their lessons using artificial intelligence. That may be. There are so many now. You've got Copilot, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT. Those are kind of the other ones. But there are also some other really good teaching AI platforms that support you with the planning of your lesson. Now, I think it's ridiculous to believe and think that the use of AI is cheating. It almost feels like we're going back to the early 2000s where somebody says if you're not using a chalkboard and you're using a PowerPoint presentation, the wizardry, that's cheating. That was
also me.
Huh?
That was also me.
Yes. So finally you've come into the 20th century as the rest of us are in the 21st century. Listen. Actually, let you go first and you explain why you genuinely believe that's cheating. Let me put my glasses on.
So, I mean, as a funny disclaimer, was it yesterday you said to me that I live in a different era to everybody else?
Yeah,
I have a rotary landline.
Been saying that. So you have a what?
A rotary landline.
What, the ones where you go...
Yeah.
That's just giving you context. She's not joking, by the way. Some of our viewers are going to be like, what is that? You may need to Google it. She has a rotary... Firstly, she has a landline. Secondly, she has a rotary landline. Reminds me of... Doesn't Miss Bouquet have a rotary landline? I'm sure she did. Anyway.
I think that AI is going to make a lot of people very lazy and I don't have any like medical training. So this is purely my own opinion, but I do think, as you age, you need to keep your brain engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not trying to think creatively in terms of planning a lesson, as an example, you'll become reliant on technology to do part of your job for you.
But
And
sorry,
also, I'm not done.
oh,
And also, the time it takes, because I've seen people use it. I've
yeah,
had a couple of people try to convince me this is the way forward and you need to do it.
yeah.
The amount of time it takes to think of a prompt, type the prompt, and then it will come back with, oh, do you want me to add this? Like, you might as well just do the thing yourself. So I'm not convinced. I'm not a fan of AI at all.
Are we just talking AI in general, or AI to plan lessons, and AI in education?
We're talking specifically about planning.
Planning. Okay, cool. Um, okay, so I would say for planning your lessons, I somewhat do agree, because I think it's important as an educator you understand the fundamentals of lesson planning.
Mm-hmm.
You understand the fundamentals of planning, lesson by lesson, overarching schemes of work. I think it's fundamental that you understand this stuff as part of your pedagogical practice. Yeah. If you don't understand this stuff, it's gonna come back to bite you
Mm-hmm.
in the bum. So if you're a seasoned teacher,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's almost like a teacher aid, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, cool, because you almost know what you're putting in the prompts, knowing what you want the outcome to be,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to putting in the prompts an outcome, and you're like, oh yeah, this is great, because you can pick sense from nonsense, if that makes sense.
Yes, but then it doesn't take into account prior learning or, the children
No,
who may
but
have been absent
but
and
that's you. But that again, that's why I say it's really important. I think as an experienced teacher,
uh-huh.
if you're using it,
Yep.
and you all of that is comes quite natural. So that tells you about what your prompt's going to be. Does that make sense? So you see where you speak about people with missed lesson, prior learning, so on and so forth. You would have made
Mm-hmm.
sure that is kind of recovered in the introduction, in the starter and your introductory stage,
Mm-hmm.
because you understand the process of lesson planning. So
Mm-hmm.
you would kind of already make sure that that's embedded into lesson. But if you don't, if you're just coming like, right, damn, I had a crazy weekend. Let me just quickly just create any random lesson in 5 minutes just to deliver, just so if somebody walks past, it looks like I'm doing it. Yeah, it's not a good idea. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm still not convinced. I think, like I said, I'm just borderline concerned that people will become dependent on it. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where in a school the servers have gone down.
Ah, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
People are like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, what do we do? What
yeah.
happens next? How is my lesson going to go? And it's just like, oh my goodness, like, okay, so you don't have access to the internet and your laptop's not working. You can still use the whiteboard,
Yeah,
but you can see that people are really thrown out of their comfort
yeah,
zones,
it's
and
true.
they don't know how to, dare I say, adapt to traditional teaching methods.
Yeah. You mean archaic teaching methods or
Call
traditional?
it what you will.
I'd say archaic teaching methods. I can see the pros and the cons, but what I am seeing now is I was part of a Black Men Teach conference. I feel we big up Black Men Teach, Jana and Albert, like every
That's because
podcast.
we love them.
Yeah, it was really good, and there was a gentleman there. I want to say, let me make sure I get his name right. And he was really into edutech. Yeah,
Hmm.
I want to make sure I get his name right. I think it was Joel. Joel. Make sure I get it right. Should have been prepared, but I didn't know this was where it was. Oh,
You
I'll
mean you
find
didn't make use of technology before we started filming?
it. Whatever. Anyway, so he did a really great presentation at the conference, where he was, in essence, he was talking about technology and kind of where we're at with that. And I must say, Joseph, do you know he won an award at the, where you won your award? At the
Future Ed.
Yeah. Joseph Arday, yeah, computer science teacher, AI in the classrooms. Yeah, he did a brilliant presentation, and after his presentation, it made me know that okay, I think that is all outside of just planning in the classroom and in education. This is going to be it. So I remember when I did my PGCE, and you had kind of smart boards, and that was kind of just to this is like 2007, 2008 times for me when smart boards were being introduced as the interactive way to engage your students. PowerPoints were standard, smart board presentations, and it was all about kinesthetic learning and the smart board being a way to incorporate and bring your children into who are kinesthetic learners. Yeah? And if you weren't able to show that you were kind of appeasing to kinesthetic learners, it was almost an automatic fail. And our PGCE tutor, he was English and tech as well. So it was very kind of tech heavy. And it reminded me of that kind of, if you aren't able to kind of get on this, it's not a trend. This is where education is going. If you're not able to get on with it, the same way how I can now see brilliant teachers who aren't able to harness data correctly and information to support their learning are going to have fallen and fall by the wayside. I think in the next kind of, I think it's going to be a shorter time period. The next 5 years, if you're a teacher who isn't able to harness the power of AI, you're going to fall by the wayside. Because if you're a chalk and talk teacher, yeah, you could be the best chalk and talk teacher in the world, yeah, you're gonna struggle in a mainstream school in 2025. 26. What year are we in?
26.
2026.
So do you remember what I was saying earlier
Go
about like if you don't use your brain to engage, what might happen? No, all jokes aside, I think children and young people spend an awful lot of time on tablets, on their phones, streaming things on laptops. To then add it to a classroom setting, I just think it's a bit too much. Just because something's new and shiny doesn't necessarily mean that it's, the best way to go. You can grit your teeth as much as you like.
I haven't. I'm just thinking. I hear you. Like, yeah, I love the feeling of a book in my hands. I've never been a Kindle fan or reading off of an iPad. You with me?
There you go.
I've never even been one for. I love the cinematic experience. So if I'm going to watch a film or a new film, I prefer to go to the cinema to watch it as opposed to waiting until it's streamable on networks that are available. I was going to be shady. I was going to be shady right now, but
Caught yourself.
because I got a touch of class. Yeah, I'm not going to. I'm sure you're familiar with certain streaming platforms, right, Rena? But we won't get onto that. So she has no streaming platform. Amazon, none of them. She still is all 100% terrestrial TV. But I think it's important that we have that context so they understand where you're coming from. Like, I'm talking not even BBC iPlayer. So when I say, oh, have you missed this? Like, you can catch up. It's like, oh, no. Like, so just to get, I think it's fair that we understand.
I love the way that I live. My children hate when the house phone rings though, because it interrupts the Wi-Fi. Like, Mum, just use your mobile. Like, I'll call you back. But you know what they also hated? So Sundays, when they were little, was no screen Sundays. There was no TV. Or
Well, did you put
laptop.
up the little girl with the...
What used to come on BBC Two?
Yeah. Did you take a picture of that and put it over the TVs? Yo, what?
Our younger viewers won't even know what you're talking about. You do realise that? We might need to
Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the hell? No screen Sundays.
No.
So you're coming from what would be seen now as quite extreme.
Old-fashioned. Yeah, but, we would play board games or we do a bit of gardening or, like, go for a jog in the woods and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Just to have a break.
Some real Dickensian stuff.
It's not Dickensian. That's a step too far.
Yeah.
We weren't singing to one another by the fireplace.
Kumbaya.
You're ridiculous.
But I think it's important because I think there's space for the two to be in existence. They don't necessarily have to be. It doesn't have to be adversarial. I think you can have advancements in technology, but still appreciate, as you're saying, detachment from that, where it doesn't consume your entire life. I think it should support and help some of the things in which you're doing. So I think it was, I can't remember what it was, LM, I can't remember what it's talking about. Like, I had it written down and I've used it, but it's like a Google platform, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Where, imagine you've got all of your stuff stored like on, like your shared drive
Okay.
at school.
Yep.
And you can just kind of AI, like you can use the AI to, it may say, all right, listen, I'm currently on lesson 3 from the scheme of work, so on and so forth. However, I'd like to adapt it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the scheme of work, and it can do it because it's drawing from the memory of what's on your Google Drive. Oh, it's powerful. It's really, really powerful, and I can't see how it's not going to be a teaching aid, especially when you have, kind of to answer your question, when you've got students working from so many different. I could create like 3 or 4 different lessons or 3 or 4 different worksheets for students, in the space of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that in terms of it being a time-effective tool. Yes. I'm not completely rubbishing it. I think what has irked me recently is when people have used AI to produce a document and haven't had the courtesy, I would say, to read through it, and they've given it to me, and I'm just like, well, do you not think that you should perhaps have checked and tweaked this before giving it to me? And that's what I'm saying, that it can make people lazy. Like, if you're going to use it, at least have the decency to read through what it's produced to make sure that it's fit for purpose.
Yes.
That's my
I think
rant.
as an educator or anybody in education, if you're going to pass off work that is AI generated, you need to make sure that you're proofing. But I also think a lot of it has to do with the person who is inputting. You almost get out what you put in, if that makes sense. So you have to ask certain questions. You have to give certain prompts for it to create a response.
But that's what I mean. And maybe it's just, I accepted many, many years ago that my brain is wired differently to most.
Clearly.
But all of that thought that you've got to put into what prompts to use, like, you may as well just do it yourself. Like, I don't know.
I'll tell you what is interesting as well, talking about people who are just slapping stuff, and it's kind of slightly deviates. So firstly, have we answered I think we've answered the question. Rena's a no, use your brain. Yeah, use your noggin.
Yes.
Whereas I am more so of the opinion that as somebody who, I wouldn't say I've struggled, but I'm a bit, I wouldn't say a technophobe, but I know I've had to take some serious lessons in knowing how it's not something that comes naturally to me. So this is a massive aid. And I'll tell you where else it is also an aid. If you are dyslexic or dyspraxic and things like that, writing documents, spell checking things, it's a whiz, it's a wonder. It really, really, really is. But I tell you where it is become interesting, and this is kind of to roll into another thing: parental complaints.
Whew. Parental
complaints have shot through the roof recently. If you speak to any senior leader, listen, and they always send them on a Friday. Parents will always send them like on a Friday at 3:00. Parental complaints have shot through the roof because of the use of AI,
Yeah.
particularly ChatGPT. That seems to be the parents'
Oh, okay.
favorite because you can see it. Like you can see when it's ChatGPT. Yeah. What would you advise a leader who is getting at 4:59 on a Friday evening a 1,500-word ChatGPT generated email about how you have breached their child's human rights?
I think if it's becoming a frequent occurrence,
Yeah, no, they get.
I would suggest limiting parental complaints to one side of A4. Just because I've heard of head teachers getting like 3.5, 4, 5 pages of complaints citing legislation and all sorts. No, it's not funny.
No, it's not. No, it's not because I haven't had to deal with it, but I'm aware of it. And I've had to support.
Okay.
My colleague. Oh my goodness, he knows who he is.
Oh, dear.
he's the last couple of weeks. He's become. You know what? I did say I'm gonna get him on. You know.
Oh my gosh.
I did say I was going to get him on, and maybe this is something we could talk about with him. He's become so good at dealing with these complaints, that other schools from our trusts have like got him in to come in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's really good. Like he is really good. He's good because he's forensic.
Okay.
He's forensic. So you're saying limit to one side. Limit.
Yeah, because when you've used AI and it's produced reams of things, like it kind of takes away from what the core essence is of what the complaint is about.
Yeah.
But I also think it speaks to fractious relationships between the school and parent, because whilst it might be annoying to receive that at 4:59 on a Friday afternoon, that parent is obviously frustrated or upset about something.
And they would have probably come to speak to you before as well.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they'd have probably come to speak to you before. So I would also argue as a senior leader. So if you're watching this from a senior leader, middle leader, educator's perspective, and this kind of ties into your point, you're gonna with the emergence of AI, you're gonna have to kind of up your EQ, your emotional quotient, and how you're dealing with people in real terms.
Yep.
To avoid that. So you're going to have to really develop, and you may need to go on some courses because not everybody is a natural. Yeah, I would say I have, through my work with More Education, what I am people say, oh, how are you able to talk to the camera? It's something I have naturally. So speaking to parents and having quite difficult conversations and then be able to find resolution is something I'm good at. So I'm not likely to have parents send letters, but you never know these days. Yeah. But if you're somebody who isn't able to build positive relationships with adults, parents, and so on and so forth, and it's all very kind of back and forth, or
defensive.
It's all very matter of fact. Yeah, you're going to find yourself in problems. You're going to find yourself in serious problems. So it may be something within your team you're going to want to kind of look at, where almost you have, like in a restaurant, you have front of house.
Yep.
Those people who are like, hi, welcome, can I show you to your table? Listen, check out the such and such and such. Your server's going to be with you in a few minutes, but if they're not, just let me know. Yeah, sorry, what was your name again? Yeah, brilliant, guys. Have a lovely evening. Any problems, but your server should be with you in 5 minutes, okay? Boom. Somebody who's like almost an SLT member who is front of house, that's the person who deals with the parents. And, if you're not very good at it, you may need to go and do some training, because it's almost like parents are looking for you to look at me wrong, say the wrong thing, say it in the wrong tone, and that ChatGPT generated letters coming for you.
Yeah, but I mean, also, I think sometimes parents don't always follow the. I don't want to use the phrase chain of command, but I will in the absence of a better one. So, like usually you would talk to the child's form tutor or their head of year or the SENDco first.
Yeah,
Sometimes parents are going straight to the top. So there isn't really for opportunity to try to resolve the problem before it's.
I would say, and also, if you've downloaded More Education's How to Support Your Child in Secondary School, I think that's what it's called. We have a very clear process, I think in chapter 3, where it tells you exactly the chain of command that you should be following. By the way, it's downloadable at moreeducation.co.uk, or you can go on the Instagram page and download it for free.
Nicely done.
Yes. So because that's really important, because in my supporting parents capacity, what it shows is you're not unreasonable. So if you've emailed a former tutor, you've emailed the head of year, you've gone through this, and then you send one to head teachers, governors, and the local authority designated safeguarding officer, listen, I've tried, but it supports your case. But if you go straight to the head, then although they'll have to be dealt with it, it doesn't look good.
And let's be honest, some parents, a few parents can be
Cantankerous.
Yes, that's a lovely way
You're welcome.
of putting it. That's not the word I was going to use, but yeah. And so it makes resolutions difficult. I've dealt with, I want to say, about 3 parents in my entire career where, had I not had the upbringing that I'd had, it all could have ended very differently.
So just to kind of round up on this, from a school perspective, it's there whether you like it or not. From a leader's perspective, it's almost like you're going to have to now begin to train or be trained. Maybe that's something that we could probably do at the SLT. We could train you on how to deal with AI complaints. Maybe it's an avenue we could look at. Another money generator. So yes, wonderful. Okay. Also, before we wrap up the podcast, today's podcast, we are currently looking for sponsors. So, yes, on the SLT podcast, we are currently looking for sponsors. So if you would be interested, so if you're a publisher, if you're in education, if you are a recruitment company in education, and you would like to partner with us, we are looking for sponsors. So please don't hesitate to pop us a DM. We are open now to sponsorship of the SLT podcast, and we can sit down, have a chat, and see if there's some natural synergy between what we do and what you're trying to achieve.
Oh, can we do lunch?
We can do lunch, yeah. We'll have lunch. Obviously, Rena's paying, seeing as she suggested it. So Rena's paying for lunch. We're taking out all possible sponsors.
Well, we're not going to Claridge's then. I thought you were footing the bill, dear, but that's fine.
If I was footing the bill, definitely wouldn't be at Claridge's. But yes, and we wrap up another episode of the SLT podcast. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, comment. But subscribe is the most important thing. All right, wonderful. That's another episode.